Good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year. We have a full agenda this morning involving some important new business. And Janice, I will call on you to do roll call.
President Davidson.
Here.
Vice President Ricketts.
Here.
Secretary Kincaid, present. Treasurer Hahn.
Present.
Director Argot.
Present.
Director Hector.
Present.
Director Sauvé.
Present.
And Director Setzer. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Then I will call the meeting to order. It is 9:31, and all rise for the pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the December 3rd Draft Federation Board of Directors meeting. I have a motion to approve those minutes. Thank you, Ryan. A second?
Second.
Tom or Dan? Thank you. Any discussion? Then I will call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the minutes of the Draft Federation Board minutes are approved. In regard to the draft board minutes, I would only ask Ma Bell in the future to have these out within a week of our meeting date, so they are posted on the website within a week. Because I know some members go out and look for those. So can you do that for us, Ma Bell? Okay, thank you. And we'll go to management reports, and seeing Keith is the farthest to my left, I will call on Keith first.
Thank you. Good morning, Happy New Year. This is the first service management report for January 7th, looking at the stats and information from the month of December. Again, quickly, every board member present sitting on the board has their information been verified in public records and are paid up on their dues. It's always good. Again, financials, we're still working through the financials each month and turning them to the boards by the 21st of each month or sooner. COVID operations, we're still following the Federation's many building guidelines, so there's no mask required for residents entering the first service office, but we're still having our own first service policies and stuff inside of our office, so there's still protocols in place there, but again, plenty of numbers and ways to get a hold of us and meetings if you need to. Some administrative stats for the month of December, we had 51 transfers and 45 leases. Again, we've seen a bigger uptick in both of those the last couple of months, so that's a good sign. We had about 3,100 phone calls taken. We did about 300 pest control appointments, about 845 walk-ins through the front door, so again, lower traffic and stuff in the month of December. We did 360 emergency contact updates, which is a real good number. Again, we're getting a lot of those information back on the annual meetings that are coming back in. We did 58 alteration requests, only 12 violations, so that's a good sign people are not doing what they shouldn't be doing, so that's a good sign. We processed almost 300 invoices through Avid and drew up 8 new contracts. Insurance rise real quick. The Insurance Committee and U.S. First Service will be starting our meetings for the renewal process that's coming up in April, so over the next couple of months we'll be meeting more heavily to discuss renewals and dollar figures coming in, and more information will come out to the board and the membership as we do that. Again, pest control appointments we're down in December, and we're still inside that 3-day window. Trash collection. So last month, the the membership approved the new FCC contract for the dumpsters. As folks have probably seen, there's been some dumpster swapping taking place, so FCC has started to just randomly swap out dumpsters, so we've given them all the locations with an Excel sheet on where the dumpsters are and the sizes, so we're trying to help them out. I'm actually, I have a large map now, a very big map, and I'm actually marking the specific locations of those dumpsters to try to help with that changeover. And we've gotten some requests for swapping, so everybody that's done that will make sure we have all that done by the end of the month to make sure every dumpster is replaced. If you happen to see something toward the end of the month, let me know. I'm going to try to, again, check off on my list and my map on all the dumpsters being replaced, as well as the recycling totes. One other thing, we've had a couple delays with pickups due to the holidays and things like that. A lot of the dumpsters have been overflowing with trash, so try to let your residents know to stack it up as neatly as they can if that happens, which is always a difficult part. And also, you know, we try to put as much information we can. I know every dumpster association tells everybody there to not put construction debris or large TVs and stuff around your dumpsters. I mean, all that stuff will cause either delays or non-pickups. There hasn't been any recent issues. I usually get a text from the account manager if there's an issue with the dumpster, so they've managed to pick up the trash and stuff recently, so just try to continue your efforts to let people know that to not put construction debris if you're remodeling, have those guys take it away. They should be hauling it off the property. And then those that don't have dumpsters, you know, oftentimes there's night visitors to dumpsters that are dumping stuff randomly, so try to be courteous of your neighbors and make sure you dispose of your trash for your individual house or unit appropriately. There is a dump in Waimama that can take appliances and all kind of stuff, so if you need information or help, just let me know. Just reach out to me, but we're trying to continue our efforts to inform people to not to abuse the dumpsters. I know those associations are beyond frustrated with some of the stuff that happens there. There's only so much you can try to do each month, so. We'll also be putting out a communication, hopefully, to just kind of gently remind everybody about this as well. So thank you for that. I went a little long on that, but thank you. Health and Safety Committee, continue monitoring the COVID needs and the booster programs, as well as the Disaster Planning Committee. I know we'll be starting our meetings coming up very soon, and we'll be kicking off the 2022 year earlier this year and discussing hurricanes and disaster planning a lot sooner. And the new symposium date is still that March 7th, 2022. Landscaping real quickly, we'll be discussing heavily today on the new landscaping contract and vendor selection. We're still doing the monthly grading with First Service and OLM. Again, the next meeting takes place Wednesday, January 26th. Palm and oak tree trimming. There will be a discussion today about fertilization. I think Liz will be covering that, so I won't touch too much on it. But work orders for December, there were about 380 work orders put in for Brown's Tree. They touched over 900 trees when they were in here in December, so quite a lot of trees being touched and trimmed up. And we obviously keep continuing monitoring that process and improving it as best we can. Work orders for landscaping for the month of December obviously were low, only 15. A lot of those came in the form of requests again, so again, a lot of less folks here, a lot of less requests come in from landscaping. Only other couple things, again, just always a couple quick reminders about the emergency contact sheets as you have your annual meetings. Try to get everybody updated on their emails and information, either internally for your association records or permanent to us, and we'll put it into the system. And the after-hours emergency call, again, it's there, utilize it, and if they can't get a hold of me, which happened, I think over the break briefly one morning, we have backups to me that answer the phone as well. So, and that's all I have. That's it.
Keith, one question for you on the swap outs of the dumpsters. I know it was a county plan requiring FCC to swap out the dumpsters. Did they give FCC a date of when they had to have it completed by, or is that just between Waste Connections and FCC Environmental? Do you know?
No, they've just said that they've gotta get, thousands of dumpsters replaced, by the end of the month. So we're 84 of those,
So by the 10th of the month?
the 31st.
The 31st. So the county has required them to complete the swap out, I would assume.
I would imagine, I think there is a understanding of Waste Connection that they miss a couple dumpsters and there's still a Waste Connection dumpster there like they're doing now. FCC will pick up the Waste Connection dumpster and mark that to make sure it's swapped out, so. Waste Connection now is picking trash out of FCC dumpsters as they swap them out, so that's the agreement between the three parties there.
Okay, and I know that First Service did get an email from one of the presidents regarding, and you mentioned it, the use of dumpsters by residents outside of that association. You're going to be sending out an e-blast to residents to ensure that the dumpsters belong and are paid for by the associations, have them and shouldn't be used
Correct.
by residents from outside that association. And I know the associations have to be mindful of what their residents are putting in. One of the presidents mentioned to me that a gentleman walked out and put a TV on the ground in front of the dumpsters. And the question came up in contacting that resident. He said, well, I couldn't lift it up, but I'll have my son come and lift it up and throw it in the dumpster. And he was kindly informed that TVs do not belong in the dumpsters. And I know, unfortunately, for the associations that have dumpsters, they do have those prowlers in the middle of the night that figure, oh, there's a dumpster over there, I can just toss my stuff in there that won't fit in my Waste Connection can. Or
Yeah, there was a mattress out by the North Clubhouse pool earlier this week too, so. Luckily, it was put in, I think the best of maintenance put it into the dumpster, and then that dumpster was actually swapped out that next morning, so. Some stuff that, but people, yeah, we try to let them know, I know all those associations are after those folks, and it's a very challenging situation.
And I know it's very frustrating to the associations when other people are coming and filling up their dumpsters with non-trash items because they figure it's easier than going to the disposal or the dump site, so. I would appreciate anything you do in sending out an email blast to remind residents not to be using other associations' dumpsters. Therefore, any other discussion? Then I will turn it over to Ginger for her report.
All I can say is, y'all have been feeling my pain for a decade now about this dumpster situation. And it's no different at the South Club, so I'd just like to ditto everything that Keith said. The South Club overflow has been an ongoing problem. Same, labor, they're not able to keep up, it's going to get transferred, all that stuff. I just want to give kudos to maintenance and housekeeping, who've been out there picking up the extra trash and pressure washing and things like that. Some of the neighboring residents have, they don't, because there's food there, of course, from the South Club, and they don't want, rats and things like that. We're doing the best we can. We're on these companies all the time to get out there, but just like I said, reiterate it all, just these aren't just public dumpsters, and you can't go dump all your refuse there, but let me know how those signs and things work out for you. We even got cameras out there, so nothing has worked yet. Happy New Year, everybody. We will get right into this. Fitness center usage just slightly under the last month. I'm sure lots of those people had good intentions, but the holiday bustle got in the way. We will see those numbers spike up for New Year's resolutions. It's always fun to watch that. We had just slightly under for the holiday season in the spa and salon, about 7% down. Very unusual. So I would probably blame that on, just COVID fears and things like that, and not getting in there, because that's typically a time when people love to get in there and get kind of spruced up. In food and beverage, we did have a lower number of total patrons served, but an increase in our portico pickup program. Again, thinking people are just kind of avoiding a little bit of some of the crowds. And, but you can see the sales for December were over the budgeted plan, so people, there were less people, but they were spending more for the holidays. In the project update, the South Club Pool Deck Expansion Project is underway. We call this Phase 1. It is the Tiki Bar renovation. If you've been down to the pool area, you've seen they've broken ground, begun the demo work and some earthwork out there. Barring any delays, and you'll hear this a lot as I go forward, you all read the newspapers, you'll see labor shortages, supply chain issues. We hope for a second quarter completion of this portion of the project. There are other phases that will be coming with that we discuss with the board first before we roll those out. But this was the big one, and it's underway. The indoor pool, this report says the plan is to open for resident usage at the beginning of next week. Victoria has notified me they're ready to open this afternoon. So for those of you who love your heated indoor pool down at the South Club, whoo-hoo, it's ready, it's pretty, it's all brand new and clean, and let us know how you like it. The 25-ton HVAC unit replacement was delayed by a vendor due to I diplomatically wrote labor shortage here, but they had a COVID outbreak on their team. That installation date, this report has to be determined. Victoria informed me this morning it's January 17th. So that's when it will be a week long. It's a very, very large unit. They actually have to take down a wall, pull it out, reinstall it, put the wall back. Very complicated, but it's time and it will get, cross your fingers. Hopefully everybody's healthy by that time to get that done. North Court Complex shuffleboard courts, we've getting ready to resurface. They've got 8 smooth and 8 rough. We will leave 8 open for usage before we, go transfer over and resurface the other 8 so they can continue to play. The total project will take about 3 to 4 weeks total, weather permitting. So under the category of, we'll call this stuff happens. December 20th, we had a sewer line break behind the 2020 Center, right back behind where Keith's office is. And we had to do an emergency repair there, get a earth mover out there and dig up the line, and they've gotten that taken care of, all finished by December 28th, all back to normal. On the 21st, I don't know if it was some kind of solar eclipse out there in the world, what was going on, but there was a number of rolling brownouts, and they fried the circuit boards to the elevator in the 2020 Center. It was irreparable damages. The vendor had 2 of the boards, but it required a 3rd board. It has a lot of electronics. I don't know if these are, components coming from foreign countries. They had sourced one, but it is delayed until mid-February. I know our team is working with Mabel on associations being notified if anybody in the meetings upstairs needs the elevator, that we will let them know. So if any of you all have anything going on upstairs at the forum at 2020 and somebody does require the elevator, it won't be available. And we will get it fixed as soon as we can, and we apologize for that inconvenience. It's the woes of electronics in Florida, so we'll do the best we can and let everybody know when that's up and running again. The new tram that we've been waiting on all year for the transportation department, this is a budgeted planned item. You've heard me say so many times that we're waiting. I finally took it off the report. So we're still waiting. The rep has reported that Ford had cut their production, and a fair number of orders had been canceled. We had actually ordered a 21 vehicle, and now Ford is actually making what they call a 23 chassis. So we're kind of at the of the automotive industry's problems there, but we are waiting on an estimate when the tram may be completed and delivered. The trams are still running. The wheels on the bus are still going around, and the team's doing a great job. We always just replenish those and make sure that we have a not too many miles on a bus, and then when we trade it in, there's some value there that comes back to the community. But we'll let you know when that's out. So let's switch to maybe a little more positive news. The Winter Series sales are going well. If any of you went to the Queen show last night, I believe that was sold out. Is that right, Matthew? We also have Motown Magic, Abracadabra, and Let's Hang On, sold out. Other shows coming up, the Three Dog Night Experience and the Everly Brothers. So we've just gotten rave reviews about that show last night. So I want to thank Matt and Scott and the team, and you guys did a great job, and it was a full house. We've got Queen's Luncheon on the first Wednesday of each month. Also, we've got the Jen's Open Air Market. That's the first Wednesday morning. Monthly line dances coming up, so it's season. We're back in full swing. A lot of activities going on. We've got the Business and Wellness Expo on January 14th. Next movie is James Bond on the 28th. We've got our monthly dinner on the 28th. We've got the DJ, pool deck. All of these are, of course, in your pointer, but that's January 31st. And then the always anticipated garage sale lottery is going to be February 11th in Veterans Theater. And the actual garage sale will be March 4th and 5th, so start eyeing those items that you're not friendly with anymore. Activities open house will be February 4th. Those are all just at a glance. The team really likes me to say these while I'm on camera. I know it's a little tedious to listen to, but some folks who don't either read the pointer or whatever, they might watch this and find something. I'd also like to save one thing for the end of the special events. I'll just finish the report here, bear with me. Security operations, as you can see, total phone calls over 10,000 in the month of December. It won't surprise you, the highest call volume to bring people in the gate was Christmas Day. Passes issued over 15,300. And it was a very busy month at the gate, busier than we can remember in a long time. A vehicle did arrive at the front gate with a driver saying he just wanted to come in and surprise somebody, his resident. While that's such a sweet thought, and I'm sure there was no malintent there, security informed him, sorry, no surprise visits allowed here, bucko. So they did contact the resident and got authorization for them to come, and he was a little fussy with him. He couldn't go surprise his family member. And finally, Gate Security would like to give a thank you to all the residents who did bring in such goodies and cards and warm wishes. You know, they're the folks that man the wall every day and watch y'all come in, and so it's very kind of you. And Matthew, if you would like to come up and share some information on the COVID rapid tests that are coming in.
Good morning, everyone. And actually, Ginger mentioned the show last night. I wanted to, again, thank Scott and Denny. There was a long 14 to 15-hour day for a number of us yesterday, and here you are back doing it again. So thank you guys so much. Really do appreciate it. So something we've been working on for a couple weeks, as we know that the virus continues to grow in different forms. Vesta is pleased to announce to our residents and guests will be provided an opportunity to be tested for COVID-19. We all know how challenging it's been to probably get some of those kits over at Walmart, CVS, Winn-Dixie, you name it, wherever they're selling those portable kits. We may have friends and family coming in from out of town, want to get them tested. We may not be feeling well. It's cold season, it's flu season. So we were fortunate enough to nag enough, to be honest with you, with the vendor that provided us the boosters to obtain approximately 2,000 to 2,500 testing kits for us as we go on throughout the season. I don't know how long that will stay. I know he's having difficulty getting the kits, but we do have that commitment to him, so I'm pretty excited for that. And actually, along those lines, I just got an email as I was sitting here from one of our residents who basically was asking me or demanding that we start testing everyone. So regardless of symptoms, regardless of if they're feeling well or not, included on the email that I did send out, and I can reproduce this to everybody who's in here if you'd like a copy, there are some CDC requests or some suggestions on when to get tested or not. We'd love to not test you if you're feeling great, you're feeling good, and you haven't had any exposures. Again, those lists are included in that email. I'm not going to read them for you. You can all read them. But it's not something we're planning on doing based on the scarcity of the tests or any of those other requirements. We're trying to do it the right way. I did have 3 emails since I've been sitting here of friends and family that are coming in and out of town, and somebody getting off a boat and somebody getting ready for a cruise. So there's a lot of different ways and a lot of different recommendations on how this would go. But the good news is we are going to have a presence inside this community, and we'll continue to try to do that as long as we possibly can. So.
Thank you. I did watch a news clip of our governor in Broward, and it wasn't Palm Beach. What's the other one down there? Broward and Dade. And he said that the governor's office has obtained 2,500 kits for Broward and Dade, and I'm like, well, hell, we got that many for Kings Point. Anyway. More to come. I know they're having trouble to do, they're waiting for, the supply and the demand to catch up and even out. But that's it for me today. Sorry I was as long-winded as you were, Keith. Wishing you all happy, and more importantly, a happy New Year to all of you.
Ginger, I would like to thank Vesta, and specifically Matt. I know working with that pharmacy and studying the hours to get them and scheduling tests to come in here. It's not only that you took the time to care about the residents having the capability of getting a test without leaving Kings Point, but also the work you did on boosters. So, Matt, I'd like to thank you for the effort and time you put into that to assist the residents. And you deserve the community's thanks, so thank you. We'll go to committee reports, and Liz, I know that you have a presentation to make later, so I don't know if you want to delay any committee report until that time, or
Well, either way.
we'll wait till we pick it up at new business. Ryan, do you have any updated report? Dan, I know we're going to be going over 2 contracts during new business. Do you have any other?
I have nothing in
Janice, anything on insurance?
Yeah.
Tom, I know that you have a part of the landscape committee to do the presentation. Alan, do you have anything?
No, next month, but not now.
Okay. And that takes us, last but not least, to Barbara.
Good morning.
Hello?
Okay, good morning. It's satellite communication, I didn't realize it. After a few weeks of doing sleuthing to try to get down to who actually owns our website and all of its content, it is in fact the Federation Board. However, being that private businesses do not always recognize how business is conducted here in Kings Point, and the Federation Board operates in perpetuity depending on who is the board members at the time, they are requesting that the signers of the original agreement, they will not release anything until they have the signatures of the former board member that signed it. And of course, they are more than willing to do so, as they were originally on the promotional committee and supervising that whole structure, but they don't have the authority to sign on behalf of the Federation Board. So if we would be good enough to give Eileen Pico a letter authorizing that she does sign off on this, so that we can then move on to the new website with the updates necessary and get the optimal results at the most beneficial pricing.
My question.
Sure.
On the original thing, did she, was her signature signed and then her title put in as president or whatever it is of the federation? So she's signed as a representative of the federation, correct?
No, okay, but she, there was a motion on the Federation Board at the time, and you're welcome to come up and speak on this directly, as I don't have the original paperwork available to me.
Or you can pick up the mic in front of Keith.
Okay. Turn back the clock to 2014. That's when all of this happened. When we signed up Bayshore Solutions and in 2017 started the Vimeo work. The proposals were done and recommendation to the Federation Board was done by the marketing committee at that time, of which I was the chair. Now, I didn't sign anything. However, I was listed as the primary contact as we were working on getting Bayshore in place, and getting everything done. So because my name is on there as the primary contact, they are asking me to release the domain name, which I don't own, so that it can be transferred to another company, is what I understand. Now, in the past week, I have received 6 emails about this matter from these companies. I thought I was being spammed. Fortunately, Barb helped me understand exactly what was going on. I'm more than happy to do whatever needs to do, except that both the Vimeo thing and the Bayshore is in the name of the Federation. And I am not part of this anymore, so I don't have any authority to release anything. So what we need to do is, and by the way, all of these things were set in motion by official motions by the board of directors at that time. The contract was signed, I believe, by Jim Haggerty, who was the president at the time. That's, we're talking about in the past. So what we really need to do at this time is for this board to make a motion to authorize me to proceed with sending whatever release I need to send to the board so you can get me off this thing, is the contact.
It's a merry-go-round that won't stop.
Exactly.
Could you just authorize a new contact that you sign off to say the new person should be the representative?
The difficulty is that you guys are firing the old firm that has my name. So that adds to some of the names.
It would make it, Eileen, tell me if I'm wrong, it would make it a lot easier if the board sent a letter authorizing you to act in its behalf to obtain the necessary information from Bayshore and obtain any release needed in that particular aspect. Am I correct?
Yes, that is what needs to happen.
Because we could sit probably and argue with them for the next month, and they're not gonna change their opinion in
No.
the process.
No.
So, Barbara, if you wanna make a motion to the board that, the board send a letter authorizing Eileen to act, on the board's behalf to obtain the release from Bayshore and get that particular aspect done.
I make a motion to proceed with giving Eileen Pico authorization via the board.
One second.
Thank you, Alan. Any discussion? Then I will call the question. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? The motion is carried, and Barbara, I will work with you on that letter, because I think you understand more what they need and what they would like to see. And we can put together that letter and get it over to them and hopefully put this particular matter to sleep. Because
Yes,
I know, I'm surprised you're not bald, and I mean that in a complimentary way, because since you have taken over for Rick Massame, it has been one issue after another that you've had to deal with, and I appreciate that the effort in trying to get this new website up with all the necessary data has not been easy. I get copied on those emails, so thank you. And if we can make it easier by giving authorization for Eileen to sign it, then let's just do it and get it done.
Thank you, and I appreciate Eileen's cooperation on this
Yes, and
as
thank you
well.
very much, Eileen, for working with the board to get this done. It's much appreciated.
Absolutely, I'm looking forward to some new marketing.
That takes it, do you have anything else, Barb?
That's it.
That takes us to the president's report, and sometimes as president or working on a committee, you get some advance notice of things that will be sent out to the community, and I think it's supposed to be sent out today regarding the donations to the Mary Ann Martha House. The master, Shauna, was working on sending out an invitation regarding the presentation to the Mary Ann Martha House. So for those in attendance, you have advance notice that during the master meeting on next Wednesday, the 12th, and Jane, you can shake your head as long as you're under the same understanding I am. A presentation will be made to the Mary Ann Martha House. I hope you're sitting down. The total amount of the check is $17,525. And, you know, you can applaud, you're applauding yourselves because you are the ones who donated the money. A number of members of the leadership team throughout Kings Point donated their time in putting this together, but it was the residents who raised the money. And thank you very much for your efforts in doing that and putting it to a very, very worthwhile cause. In regard to the raffle, there is still an unclaimed prize, which kind of baffles Keith and I, and probably the master. There is a $1,500 voucher for a cruise that no one has claimed as of yet. There are some credit cards, gift cards, I believe, Keith, for Publix and Visa. There is a Serenity Spa gift card. What we will most likely do, and it's just a matter of getting the leadership team, is we will take the items that the Mary Ann Martha House can use, like a Publix gift card or a Visa gift card, and donate those to the Mary Ann Martha House. For the other prizes, we will most likely hold a public, our recommendation is to hold a public auction in the lobby, where we would do the same thing they did, Susan Martucci did for the trees and wreaths, and letting people bid on those items. Whatever money we would raise for those would also go to the Mary Ann Martha House. But it's the best way of turning it over to the community, and probably Keith will be sending out today or Monday a notice of the gift. If they are not redeemed by next Friday, that they will be taken back and put out for a silent auction in the lobby. But I don't know who had that, excuse me, that ticket. But I certainly wouldn't turn away a $1,500 voucher towards a cruise. And you were gonna say something, Keith? So just wanted to let you know that we did have some items, and we will be able to provide to the Mary Ann Martha House some additional dollars over what we said. Let the war begin for that cruise voucher, which was very generously donated by one of the master's vendors. I believe it was donated through your insurance agent, correct, Jane? It was donated by your insurance agent, correct? And outside of that, I have nothing else. I hope you all have kept your New Year's resolutions. It's only the 7th day of the month, so you shouldn't have failed yet. But I know they're made and they're easily broken. So we will go on. to the open forum, and I know Dan, where are you, Dan? I know you have a question. Is it regarding the trimming of a tree?
Yeah,
Okay, could you wait to the
Yeah.
end, and then,
I can.
I won't forget you, and then, once we get through the rest of it, we can address your question on Brown's performance. Is that fair enough?
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to speak to, about landscaping, warranty stuff, tree trimming. So should I do that now or wait till the end?
Wait to the end, if you would.
Over here, up, Mary Ann.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say that I work closely, you brought up about the celebration of the holiday. I worked closely with two events that were engaging staff members, Vesta staff members. I have never, and I've worked for a lot of people, never worked with such a fantastic group of people as Vesta staff. And I think we need to recognize them more than just a clapping of a thank you. There needs to be recognition going to them. Every task I asked them to do, and there were lots, they did it without question and completely, and were very protective of the whole environment, including all the residents and their visitors that came to these events. So some way there needs to be a recognition to that effect, to them, not in a board meeting or a membership meeting. We need to do something for them, because that is, they've gone above and beyond the duty of their responsibilities.
I would agree with you, and seeing the leadership team that put together the event, we have to meet to all agree to do a silent auction for the unclaimed prizes. It would be a good opportunity for us to discuss the manner in which we want to thank not only the work that the Vesta staff did on the day, but also the work and the untiring work that the people from First Service did. They are both the management company for the land trust and also the management company for the property. They stepped up. I can tell you there were Vesta people here late at night, and there were also First Service people here, I know, at least until 9:30. They gave them their time and effort, and I happen to agree with you, Mary Ann. A recommendation outside of applause is more than overdue for those folks. And yes, they do step up without complaint, without objection, and they put in the time. I mean, Matt mentioned earlier today that it was a long night for Denny and some of the other people working on it. These are the employees that we have working for us in this community that go above and beyond the call of duty, and I really appreciate it. And when you said that, Mary Ann, there's one people, and I learned that a lot of people do not know who she is, and that is Denny. And Denny, I know you're sitting back there, and I know you don't like a lot of attention and praise, but would you stand up so every time we mention Denny, they're going to know who Denny is. She is around for every event, working every event that we seem to have in Kings Point. And Denny, I appreciate all of the extra hours that you put in. It is very much appreciated. And I will tell you, the smile on your face brightens this clubhouse and the South Club every single day you're in it. So thank you. With that, we will turn to new business. And I will turn the meeting over to Liz regarding a recommendation from the Palm and Hardwood Committee regarding an amendment to the contract for fertilization.
Thank you. One of the Palm and Hardwood Trees Committee's charge was to develop an amendment to add the appropriate fertilization to the existing Brown's Tree Service contract that is in effect through 3/24. The committee, as well as our residents, are well aware of the failing of our palms and have been very concerned about it. The committee had the opportunity to join First Service when they did one of their landscape seminars and bring some of the information to the residents as to why the palms were sick and dying. That research noted 3 basic options that are necessary to heal and keep the palms fresh, healthy. Fertilization is number 1, and it has to be an appropriate compound that is good for this soil, not Miami or Jacksonville or whatever, for this soil. And it needs to contain specific micronutrients that are formed in a slow-release formula. And this is critical, and that formula is included in the amendment. The appropriate time and application process. That's just as important as having the important fertilization. If it's not put down correctly, you're wasting time and money. And number 3, and we talk about this ad nauseum, trimming fronds. And never trim a green frond, only a brown frond, unless the frond is obstructive to walkways, driveways, roofs, etc., and we don't carrot top. Utilizing this research, the community crafted amendment language for the existing Brown's Tree Service contract that in specific detail specifies these critical components. The current fertilization program, 2 applications included within the landscape contract, with 2 additional applications by Russell paid through the Federation Landscape Fund. The proposed program requires 3 applications scheduled at times most beneficial for the best effect of the palm. The cost of this change is noted in the payment section of the amendment that is added to the Brown's contract. However, it's important to note that there will be 1 less application, and also the funds from the current landscape contracts will be removed if the new contract is in place. The budgeted landscape should be less, the budgeted landscape from landscape contract. Did I start that one again? Okay, the budgeted landscape budget from current landscape contracts will be removed. So that those dollars that are currently sitting there will no longer be there. It is projected that this will more than cover the change in the program with better results and less cost. Therefore, the Palm and Tree Committee is recommending to the Federation Board to approve the Brown's Tree Service contract amendment for presentation to the membership for their review and approval.
And a second, Cougar? Thank you, Dan. Discussion? I will, for clarification purposes only. We are removing in the proposal that the Palm and Hardwood Committee had and the Landscape Committee had was to remove fertilization from the landscape contract and the landscapers and have our tree service company do the fertilization 3 times a year. Am I correct in that?
That's correct.
That's correct in that understanding. So you will not see from the landscape contract mention of fertilization of the palm trees, that it will be under the new amendment which you are proposing for Brown's or any future tree company to do the palm fertilization.
Correct.
That is correct. Alan?
I have a question, comment / whatever. The current landscape contract has 4 applications for fertilization, for everything, I think, or.
It only has 2.
Oh, wait, hear me out, please. it has 4 applications for everything, for the bed plants, for turf. How many applications for turf? Is it 4? 2? 4?
4.
I think it's 4.
It is
So 4
4. Keith is
applications.
answering your
So it's
question.
4 applications of fertilization for pretty much everything, except it has only 2 for the tree, for the palms. That's why we added the 2.
We had.
So we had 4 for palms, then 2. Now we're reducing it to 3. I think the concept was since we added the 4, which is a good thing, and I think the palms are healthier, they're so much healthier. I think we've said, hey, there's so many seed pods and things, maybe it's too much. Maybe it's more than we need, which is why I think that the committee then said, well, that's 3. Maybe we definitely need more than 2. So we're going to go with 3, I think. But we're going to then look at this and as we go forward, see if 3 is enough. If 3 is not enough in the future, we may add the 4. But right now, the 3 we're suggesting is satisfactory, correct?
Correct, and when we did the research, the information we obtained was there is a portion of the year when fertilization is best for the palm. And just like you and me, there's a life cycle for all of our plants. And in that information, the recommendation is February, May, and August with a slow release formula of fertilization, which will ebb into the following month. And yes, it's always a work in progress. We always have to be reviewing and monitoring and overseeing and make changes or recommendations for changes as we see fit.
Our 3 fertilizations, which the committee is recommending, is based upon your research of
Yes,
the
sir.
number of times we should fertilize it. So it's not just the number we
Plucked out of the air?
plucked out of
No,
the air.
no. And the other fertilizations that the landscapers use have no impact at all on a palm.
Any other discussion from the board?
I'd just like to point out that going to this schedule is going to save, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of $30,000 to the community.
Over what we would pay for the 4 fertilizations. Any other discussion? Any comments, concerns?
Liz, I really appreciate the work that your committee did. And the one thing that I saw in our community was when they were applying the fertilizer, they were inconsistent with the application. Typically, I understood that they should be taking like a handful, spreading it around, not the base of the tree, but around the root system. And that was key. So is that part of this too?
Yes, sir, and I can read the exact language because that's part of the major problem. Fertilizer should never go, thank you, fertilizer should never be put up against the trunk of the palm. The application of the fertilizer shall be spread uniformly, evenly, under the canopy of each palm. Fertilizer shall not touch the trunk of the palm. And also it says the amount of application, each application will provide 1 1/2 pounds of fertilizer per 100 square feet of the canopy. So it's a very specific process that we have put in place. Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns, comments? Yes.
Under the contract, I'm treasurer of Andover Tea. We have one fan palm tree, and for 2 or 3 years, it has not been pruned. I put in requests repeatedly, starting in the
Okay,
spring.
Dan, can we address that at the end of the meeting? Because it has nothing to do with the
Well, that's
fertilization
contract.
amendment.
it's part of the contract with the Brown's Tree.
But we're only discussing, Dan, an amendment to the existing contract regarding fertilization. I'm not ignoring your question, I'm saying let's delay your question till the end, because I know Lucy also has some questions she has on the trimming of palms and landscaping, according to my understanding of what she said. We can address those at the end, if you would be willing to do that. No other discussion, I'll call the question. All in favor of referring to the membership, an amendment to the palm and hardwood tree contract to have them do the fertilization in place of it being part of the landscape contract, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ma Bell, you see it is added to the agenda, and the necessary documentation is sent to the membership. Thank you. With that, we will go to the second, which is the board approval of the landscape contract for the period April 1st of 2022 through March 31st of 2025. And Dave, first of all, I want to say to you, thank you. Dave, when he was on the board, took over as chairman of the landscape committee, and he graciously agreed to continue so we didn't lose his expertise and knowledge. I would like to thank you for that effort. I would also like to thank your team that remained in place over the last year, knowing we had to do a new contract, which is Frank, Jim, Del, and Tom, for working diligently along with Keith to try and attempt to get a new, because it was up for RFP, a new contract put in place and new vendors for the appropriate sections selected. So I want to thank you for the effort you put in this. Even though you left the board, you still dedicated a considerable amount of time to the community. So thank you, and thanks to the committee for the efforts and work they do. So I will turn the meeting over to you and your committee.
The landscape committee over the course of the last 4 months has been needlessly very busy. As Jack was saying, we had to develop a new contract, and that was the first step we did roughly 4 months ago. The committee got together and in excruciating detail went over every line item of the contract. There were a lot of glazed eyes at points during the contract review, but I think the product that we recommended to the board had significant changes and a lot of improvement for the community. That contract also included the contract committee, First Services, and also our outside counsel reviewing it. When we had the tentative contract, we then proceeded to go into the RFP process. RFP is request for proposal, where we go out to vendors and ask them to bid on our landscape. The committee, through the course of the RFP process, met, and we had to follow a very rigid schedule. We had the landscapers come in, and 5 of the 6 landscapers toured the facilities, toured the community, asked a lot of questions, and they prepared their bids based on the RFP package. At that point, we got together, and the one thing I'll say is over the course of the last 3 years, we've had 2 RFP processes. 4 out of the 5 members of the landscape committee have been through this process before, so it made it much easier. Frank was the new one on the board. He hadn't gone through the process before, but he asked a lot of questions, and I think he's upgraded his knowledge of RFPs quite dramatically. And I personally want to thank all of you on the committee. It is very difficult, it is very time consuming, but it is appreciated. Thank you for volunteering. And Tom, that goes to you also. With that, I would like to just mention one more thing, is if we go through the process again, the only revision I would make is, let's not do this at Christmas time again. We have a lot of out-of-town people, so that we did get it done, and I think because most of the committee had gone through this before, we understood what our responsibilities were. And now I'd like to hand it over to committee members. We have a package that will be presented to the membership at the membership meeting. The package that the Federation Board is looking at right now includes confidential information that has been given by these contractors in the bid process that they've requested not be disclosed to the community, but it is for the board to review for selection criteria. So they have that information in front of them, but when we do our overhead, some of it will have to be eliminated due to confidentiality. So that'll be the only difference between the two presentations. But now I'd like to hand it over to Frank, and then Dell's going to do a presentation, Tom is not going to, I don't think, right? And then Jim's going to do a presentation, and then we're going to end up with First Service going over budget detail. But Frank, it's all yours.
Before Frank takes it over, how many RFPs were sent out?
We sent out 26 requests.
It's in your report.
Yeah, Frank's
It's in Frank's report. Let's do his report. You don't need to answer the question.
Okay, great. Frank, it's all yours.
And I do agree, let's not do this Christmas. Being in New York with my grandchildren, trying to do the contract reviews, it took me quite a few hours, and it wasn't easy. But again, I thank Dave for all the hard work he's put in, our additional staff that are on here for Del and Jim and Tom. We're going to go into the, by the way, good morning, RFP vendor bids. The communications with all vendors was handled by the attorney. The attorney sent out to 26 vendors requests for bids for the 4 landscape sections in Kings Point. The attorney only received 6 vendors' responses for the 4 landscape sections. The vendors who responded were the following: Down to Earth, Brightview, Russell, Artistry, Buccaneer, and Davy Tree. Although the overall response was not the best, the 6 vendors who did respond was good. The attorney met with the LOC committee to turn over the 6 vendor bids who responded. The LOC committee started to review the 6 bids. Of the 6 vendors who responded, the committee found 1 vendor significantly higher bid than the other 5 vendors' bids. The vendor who was the highest was Davy Tree. The committee decided not to continue to review any further because of the significantly high bid, and Davy Tree was notified of this decision. This meant that the LOC had only 5 vendors to review for 4 landscape sections. 2 of the 5 remaining vendors only submitted bids for 2 sections, which was Section 2 and Section 4. These vendors was Artistry and Buccaneer. The other 3 vendors, Brightview, Russell, and Down to Earth, submitted bids for all 4 sections. All of the above played a role on the LOC committee decisions on the 4 landscape sections. Okay, and at this time, I believe you have the charts. All right, well, let's go over to the section bids paperwork. Does everybody have that in front of them?
No, we don't have it.
Oh, so how do I,
Visualize.
okay. Do you,
We're gonna visualize.
Improvise, visualize.
figures on this?
No,
All right, I'm not gonna give figures, that's what I've been told. So what I'm gonna do is,
Hey, Frank, if we can't see it, we won't be able to ask you questions on it, so.
that's the reason why we didn't give it to you. Well, I'll try to hold it up. It's a lot of the, this is section 1.
Give it to Keith and let him pass it on.
Well, I need it.
We need it.
Take a picture of their phone.
What happened here is we separated the 4 sections for the RFP bid process, and we color-coded the sections of each. We're in section 1 now, and we only received 4 bids for section 1, and that was Brightview down there at Russell and Davy Tree. The indications of the vertical bars are showing the different values of their bid returns, okay? And that's basically it. I will mention that Davy Tree, we did remove them from the thought of continuing. We did, Davy Tree is on here. And we wanted to make sure that that was all given to the board so they could review. You can see the blue, okay? And you can see that one blue bar, that's Davy Tree. And committed, you're talking about $2 million more, okay? And that's on section 1. We'll go into section 2, which is the yellow bars, vertical bars. And fortunately, we had all 6 vendors put in for bids for section 2, okay? And that was all the, basically, again, most of the bidding was fairly close. And again, you can see the yellow Davy Tree, another $2 million more. Okay. Go into section 3. We've got like a greenish color. We only had 4 vendors bid for section 3. And I'll just read them off again. Brightview, Down to Earth, in Russell and Davy Tree, submitted for Davy, section 3. Again, you can see the yellow on this again. That is Davy Tree, which is $5 million compared to $3 million. Okay? Then section 4 will be the last one that I'll be doing. All 6 vendors submitted their bids for section 4. And basically, a lot of them are close together, but again, you can see where Davy Tree is on this. Absolutely $5 million compared to $3 and $2 million. So most of the bids were over $3 million, they were over 5. So basically, this ends my report, but I don't know how we're going to show these to the board.
Can we make additional copies for them?
Yeah, I don't know, we're going to present this in slides?
They had the package on Monday for work.
Oh, okay. And that's basically it for me, and all I got to say is, let's do the right thing, I guess. Have a nice day.
By the way, Barbara Sorvay also sat in on our meetings, so she knows what we were going through.
Hey, Frank,
I'm gonna pass this around.
Frank, I cheated a little.
We got this one.
You gave some of the information to us
Trying to
earlier.
cover everything up, that's all. Can I have my package back? Well, you can understand what I was talking about when we mentioned Scott Davey.
Yeah, just for those in the audience, what it is just a bar chart that shows the different pricing of each of the RFP responses for the different companies. That's all it is. The comparison of the prices they offered to us for those sections. Am I correct in that
I would say
understanding?
so, and also that was the reason.
Yep, and we will have it in the PowerPoint for the membership when we do it.
Okay, so once the committee, we got to a point to where we determined which companies and contractors were left in the running. And as Frank said, it was 6 of them that responded. So the committee then met to create a profile, which we used, and we had used it also 3 years ago. And it was to use in reviewing the information provided by each company. This profile or guideline was used in gathering the information we needed, or we pulled out of the information they provided to formulate our recommendations. And this practice, by the way, as I just mentioned, we used it 3 years ago, and it was very beneficial then. And now, in gathering all the following information for each company that we reviewed, as it appears on the chart, which I think you also have to imagine, it's in front of you. Okay. Okay, and it's also going to be provided for the 21st. Okay, so what we did was we reviewed their annual sales figures, their net income, their business practices and fit to meet the Federation's practices and expectations,
net equity, their assets and liabilities, their cash balances, total assets, and their ability to deliver services. In addition to the information as mentioned above, the committee also considered each company's years in business, total of employees on staff, and their employees' eligibility working status, as well as their training. As we compile this information, we created more questions that we felt we needed to move forward, and this additional information was then forwarded to the attorney.
Great, and good morning. But at that point, what we did was then establish a grading matrix for each of the responding bid offers that were coming in. We looked at 5 different categories, and those 5 categories included qualifications and experience. We graded them on their ability to comply with the terms and the conditions and the scope of the work and services that were identified in the RFP. We also looked at the pricing, and then we looked at their management philosophy and style and their ability to fit in with our Federation's business practices and expectations. And then then at last, we graded them on their ability to provide adequate service adequate service in accordance with the proposed contract. So what we did was, we were looking through their bid packages, we found that not all the information and materials were consistent. So we developed a list of, as Del mentioned, an additional 26 questions that were sent out to each of the vendors. We asked everybody to provide that information, which may have been in their package or may not have been, but it was all added so that we all had all the same information as we were going through the grading process. The grading process, we took each company, and on those 5 categories, we graded them on a scale of 1 to 10. Based on the knowledge, and we did that independently. It wasn't a group thing where we were all sitting there. We all looked at the materials separate and then pulled it all together, and surprisingly found that that we were all pretty much consistent as far as our grade numbers were with each of these categories. At that point, we then took the raw scores, the raw grades, and we weighted them. Back in 2018, we looked at the process, and we looked at, out of the grading process, or out of the weighting process, not the grading process, the weighting process, the most important, and a way of thinking this is, think of it as your school grade, your final grade. 10% of your final grade, we looked at the qualification and experience. That went into 10%. The ability to comply with the standards, terms, and conditions, that had a weighting of 10%. The pricing, we weighted that as 50%. So we figured that the pricing was very important, much more important than the other components. The business practices, that was a 15% rating and weighting, and the ability to deliver the services was another 15% weighting. When we got through weighting all of our scores, we then put those on a chart and then started looking at where the numbers fell out. And at that point, the numbers fell out where they fell out. The one thing that we did do is looked at, hold on, I'm getting a note.
Breaking news. So, yeah,
I'm looking at,
yeah, I'm looking, yeah.
okay, that.
They know what I'm talking about.
So at that point, we then looked at all of our raw scores and raw data and made our recommendations accordingly.
Thank you, guys. So I was given the honors to announce the pricing effects to the membership budgets to the committee selection.
You call that an honor?
Or maybe it was just delegated over to me.
Yeah.
It's short straw.
Short straw, yeah. First of all, I want to thank the committee, everybody here, Barbara, Tom. I mean, it didn't just start 4 months ago. We started way back in, I believe, May. looking at the contract. I know I pushed you guys pretty hard with a lot of the things in meetings, so I appreciate your time, effort, and commitment. Did a real nice job, and I think you did a real nice job for the community, once we get through this, summary sheet here. So, based on the selections of the committee, the board has seen this in their summary sheet in front of them. The committee has, selected the following vendors per section, and just, backing up again, the understanding is that there was four landscaping sections, and there was gonna be one vendor per section. So one individual vendor, no vendor was gonna get more than 2 sections. One section, yeah. One section per vendor. Nobody's gonna get 2.
Nobody would get to.
Nobody would get 2. That was the original intent years back, as well as my understanding from what I've been told. And that was the committee's approach in their selection process. So as they went through this, they selected one vendor, they're off the table for the next section. So keep that in mind as I go through this here. So section 1, the committee's recommendation is to go with Down to Earth. Section 2, Artistry. Section 3, Brightview. And section 4, Russell's. And laying that out, how it affects the budget, the current year's budget that ends March 31st. Again, this is per month for all vendor contracts, it's $300,730. The proposed budget that went out in everybody's packages and that they're voting on their meetings is $345,062. Based on the committee's selections, and again, lots of information and scenarios were played out in this. The proposal coming in was $318,241, so under budget by $26,820 per month. If you kind of just average that out, it's about less than $5 per unit per month savings. So that's kind of the selection. So overall, for the next 3 years, the total cost of all 4 sections is just under $12 million. It's $11,789,009 for all the contracts. Any further questions?
If I am correct, and Keith, I give you kudos for this, how many different scenarios did you run of different combinations of vendors in a cost perspective? Because I know you just didn't do this one. Looking at doing, say, Russell in section 3 where they are today, and Brightview in a different section and stuff, I know you did, based upon their cost, different scenarios. Some of the scenarios, if I'm correct, increased over budget by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Am I?
Right. We probably ran 12 or 15 scenarios based on the sections and the qualified bidders. And yes, there were many scenarios that ran over the $345,000 budgeted item, so they were going into the $360,000 range. So that definitely weighed, I think, heavily on the committee's decision to select this process. I think the vendors that they've moved around, I'll use the term moved around, feel like they know the property, they know the contracts, know the expectations, and feel like they can do just as well the job in different sections. So I know that was a big change that's being proposed to the board and then to the membership. But lots of scenarios were laid out, and this is kind of the best case. And again, this is taking the fact that as soon as you pick somebody for one section,
it eliminates
they're off the table. So, and then again, there was some competitive pricing from all the vendors. So we had some real good competitive bids across the board, and that made it even more challenging.
That's your presentation, Dave?
That's all, folks.
Okay. Then I would entertain a motion from the board to accept the recommendations of the landscape committee, along with the revisions which they've provided us over the last few months of the revisions to the contract to the landscape committee.
So moved.
Second? Thank you, Liz. Discussion?
I'd just like to say, this is fabulous news. I mean, this is fabulous news. We were concerned, we were all concerned at the pricing going into this, landscape, everything's increased. I don't know all over how much was increased. We had, Keith had had recommended to everyone, we increased our budgeted amount by 14.7%, is what we kind of budgeted into the associations, because we were worried that the prices could be way, way high. This came in about 5.8% more, not 14.7%. Came in a lot less than we had anticipated. This means a great savings then to the associations, right? The association's budgets include what we thought it would be. The actual amount that's gonna then come out, if this is approved by the membership, will be a lot less than they budgeted, which means excess money will stay with the association. It's less than we anticipated. It's great news.
And just quickly, the contract itself was, again, altered to include various new items. So one of the big ones is ant, fire ant control.
Good.
Got one. So we're gonna include just a kind of a summary in the package that goes out to the membership, and then in the presentation, we're gonna include the highlighted contract changes that basically would have affected some of the pricing too. Because when you're asking somebody to include fire ant control for the entire section, obviously that could affect the product and labor costs there. So that's kind of some of those numbers, Alan, that we're driving up the projected budget. So a lot of good changes. Like I said, we'll highlight those and send them out to the membership as well.
For those on the phone, I got a message that it was kind of muffled and they asked what the selection of the vendors were. So I'm just going to repeat them for the people on the phone. In section 1, it's Down to Earth. In section 2, it is Artistry. Section 3 is Brightview. And section 4 is Russell. Your Federation board has a fiduciary requirement to the community to do what is in the best interest of the community at what we believe financially is the best cost for the community. You did not today have the opportunity of seeing the pricing. I think Keith will and Dave will agree with me that we didn't necessarily take the lowest cost provider in any section. We did what was economically responsible. It would have been a lot easier for Dave and the committee to just say, leave Down to Earth in section 4, leave Brightview in section 1, leave Russell in section 3. But it wouldn't have been a financially responsible thing to do from a fiduciary responsibility of the board. And a lot of analysis went into this, and not by, except for Tom here, and not by the board. This was analysis by the committee. We waited to get to the committee's report. We didn't make recommendations on who did what. It isn't a matter of personal preference, it's a matter of fiduciary responsibility. It's funny that a lot of the board lives in section 3. And we have one committee member that is in section 3. In fact, the chairman of the committee is in section 3. So both of you are. It wasn't trying to say how do we appease different members. And I want people to understand that we didn't pick this based upon any personal preference. These were picked based upon the fiduciary responsibility from my understanding from the landscape committee.
Thank you. Alan, one other thing. In the prior contracts, the yearly increase was roughly 2%. And of course, we're all concerned right now when we go to the restaurant, we see that chicken wings are market price on the menu. But what happened is in all these bids, everybody used a 3% increase over the next couple of years. So we're only seeing a 3% increase each year in these contracts, which I think is an exceptional graph for us at this point in time.
The one good thing in your recommendations, and I'm glad a lot of companies didn't respond, because the 3 of the 4 vendors we selected, we couldn't select Down to Earth for 2 areas. So 3 of the we have, as a community, experience with these vendors. OLM has experience with dealing with 3 of these vendors. First Service and Ryan Rorick have experience in dealing with these, as does the Federation Board. So it's not like these are new vendors that we are just picking up. We also have the capability that Brightview leaves Section 1 and goes to Section 3. If something is a deficiency in Section 1, which they didn't correct, we still have the hammer because they're still in the community to say, you gotta go back and fix Section 1. If they did something in Section 3, Russell did, they didn't replace her. Just because they're in Section 4 doesn't mean they don't have to correct that deficiency after April 1st. We will still keep on them from that perspective. So we're keeping the same vendors, we're just moving them around a little. Sometimes change is good in having a different vendor with a different set of eyes doing your landscaping, your tree trim, your bush trimming and your garden trimming and stuff. It makes it, they have a different set of eyes on the process.
Hear me now? What I wanted to add was, even though Jim and Dave and I worked together in the last process, at that time we were in the room together when we were doing our scoring. But because it fell over the Christmas week this time, we were all in our own homes when we had homework when you were all shopping. And so we all did our own scoring without sharing with each other. So it was amazing how the similarities and how close we came to our scores, which of course we can't release that. But when we came together and we saw our scores, we were amazed on how close we came. So it was a tough call. And some people in the room may not recognize Brightview. They used to be Valley Crest. So if that brings anything back to you, if you're in Section 3.
I would tell you, for those people in Section 4, and I'm looking at Ray sitting out there in the audience, it is, I know they have a good relationship with John Cornelius and with Maria. From a Brightview, because the board gets to review them on a monthly basis, we get to know the different management structures within these companies. I will tell you that personally, I will miss having Russell do my particular association, because I have a very good relationship with Will and Marcos. And I know Section 1's gonna feel the same way about dealing with Maria and stuff. And the other vendors that handle the services within Kings Point. So I think every association and every section worked out to the best in the way the landscape committee did it. That's my personal opinion, but I cannot speak to our gratitude from the board for the work you folks did. This, thank God, only has to be done once a year. Once every 3 years. If you can get it to once every 6 years, it would be great, but I know it is a lot. On a side note, before we take a vote, Dave, you are the one who put together, for the most part, the scoring, the capability RFP. That was your baby. I know that other committees, such as the Insurance Committee, initially used it when they did some RFP processes. It is a process going forward that any board, whenever they do an RFP, can use. So I appreciate, Dave, the effort from a few years ago that you put in to do this scoring process, and that your committee has been consistent in following the same process, and so has the board with other RFPs that have been sent out. So Dave, I want to thank you for that extra effort and the time that you put into it, so thank you on that. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Jill?
I just like to have addressed why a vendor, only one vendor for one section, that the others were thrown out.
I'll let Jim answer it if he wants, or Dave.
The perfect one to answer.
Back when we had Mainscape in here and we took the entire 800 acres and broke it up, the membership had voted on limiting one section with one vendor. For a whole host of reasons, we never, ever, ever did it. I think that, and we have found that in the past, having a vendor who has more than one section has never worked out for us. It has been a problem ever since we did it. Once, just once, I would like to try what we originally thought. And this is our first attempt at trying to do what we originally set forward. So if we had enough vendors, we had enough qualified vendors to be able to do that, let's do what we said we were going to do.
Yes.
Jill, I can tell you.
It's answered, I understand, I understand.
No, I just want to say that our experience, Jill, in having one vendor handle two sections, as Jim said, hasn't been the best.
I just want to try it. Then we can go back to it.
I heard you. Thank you.
In the back?
Do we have an understanding why the Davy tree was so much higher?
We cannot hear you, so.
Do we have an understanding why Davy tree was so much higher?
Davy Tree values the service they provide to any community at a premium rate. They are what is considered by themselves, a premium service provider. When they consistently came in at $1 million or $2 million more than the average bid of all the other providers, we don't think the community should be spending additional millions of dollars.
I don't disagree, but sometimes, it's been my experience, that when you get a vendor that consistently is much higher, there may be a reason that it's important to know. That's all I'm saying. It might pay an interview.
Is the master board using them? Is the master board using them?
No, I didn't say that. I said, all I'm asking is, we may learn something by finding out why the huge difference. And that might be important to us. That's all I'm saying. I'm not promoting it. I'm not saying it's a good idea to pay that kind of money, but sometimes that difference is worth knowing why it is.
You know, my experience though has been, companies really don't need the work. They'll throw a big number on there. If we get this, hey, great, look, we're gonna make tons of money.
Yeah.
That's what generally happens sometimes when you get real high bids.
Well, I don't disagree with the comment that maybe we can interview them again after the fact and just get their thoughts on it. It may help us in the future. I mean, that's reasonable.
Yeah, going through the packages, as I was reading through the packages, as far as what Davy was proposing to do for Kings Point was not much different than any of the other vendors out there. So I didn't see the value in what their costs, what they wanted to charge us.
Any other comments, questions, concerns? If not, then I'll call the question before the board to refer this to the membership with the selected vendors and the contract language which has previously been presented to us. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then Mabel, would you put it on the agenda for the 21st meeting with the membership? What we will do, and I've had conversations with Mabel on this particular subject, we are not going to mail out the new landscape contract. We will mail out a summary of the changes, However, as you are aware, First Service does email the agenda. The email will contain the new landscape contract. If you want a copy of it, once the notice goes out, if you get a hold of First Service and go down to First Service, they will print you out a copy. It is a rather large contract, and we don't see the need to spend the money to put the contract into the mail package when you get it via email, and that you have the capability of picking it up at the First Service office before the 21st meeting. So keep that in mind, that if you don't want to waste your paper and your ink, we might as well waste First Service's paper and ink.
The contract is 38.
38 pages long.
$3 million.
Yes, Mary Ann?
Okay, these vendors, and I have no problem with it, have they been notified that they are being considered? Because this group of people, you don't know who's gonna go up to them and say this or that. So from the committee, or from the board in this case, some notification should be given so that, we're gonna have an ongoing relationship with them.
We haven't been able to notify them, Mary Ann, until the board approved it, and we will be notifying them that the board has approved and recommended to the membership. But we had to wait till after today before we could notify them.
Thank you.
And, yes?
I'm sorry, I just have a question as to how the costs are passed through to each to each association. Is each association?
Could you come up to the mic, because,
Sorry,
or,
just real quickly, I don't want to take much time, I just don't understand the procedure. Are the costs, like section 1 costs allocated to the condos in section?
no, the entire landscape cost is allocated per acreage of each association in the total. So it's all done by acreage of the land, and so all the acreage, and Keith, you correct me if I'm wrong, all the acreage is totaled up. Each association pays according to its acreage for its association of the total.
Thank you.
And just as a point of reference, I asked that same question when we were talking about this, and that's why the overall savings by restructuring it, and because with District 1, we lost Brightview into another section. We picked up DTE, which is also a good vendor. We know they'll do a good job, but the overall savings gets spread across the whole. It's not one individual group benefiting over another. And we had a serious discussion in that in a workshop, so it has been addressed.
Thank you.
That's why it's the beneficial point to the community that we watch the fiduciary spending of the associations. Now, Dan, if you want to come up to the mic, we have no other business to discuss, so I'll be more than glad to have your question. And Dan, as soon as you're done, I'll turn it over to Lucy.
Dan Page, treasurer of the Dan Page, treasurer of Andover D. For several years, Andover D has one fan palm tree. For several years, I put in requests to have that tree pruned. In the spring, I put in another request. Ryan Rourke got back with me 4 or 5 times, told me that that was not covered under the contract. Okay, there would be an additional charge of $30. So I said, what can we do to get this done? This went on maybe a month or so ago. I decided I'd prune the tree myself. And when I pruned the tree, okay, there were we were having problems with wasp nests. And as I pruned the trees, that one tree was covered with wasp nests. Okay? Why is that not covered under the contract for pruning palm trees?
How big is the tree?
It's probably 16 feet high. It's not a tall tree.
I mean, depending on size, it's gonna be, fall to the landscaper. I mean, also the Chinese fan palm is not technically in the, palm contract, it's a self-shedder. But we have, over the last couple of months, had Browns address even taller ones, so if you have a need to trim it again, just send me a note, I'll make sure I get it trimmed for you. It's not,
I pruned it myself.
yeah, a lot.
That's not recommended.
Dan, did you get stung?
No, but
Probably.
one neighbor in 76, every week or so,
Oh, come on.
I have raid, and every week or so, I go around to all of the buildings, and they're covered with, my end for some reason, they like my end better than the other end. And there'd be wasp nests on the trees. And I found they were coming from that one tree.
Man, just let me know next time you need a trim, I'll get it taken care of.
Dan, they're at your end because you're such a sweet guy. Now, be nice to us, Lucy.
I'm always nice. Good morning, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I think you answered my question, my landscaping question, because it is about the warranty. We have been trying in Section 4, in our association, to get warranty work done for probably easily 6 months. And it keeps being put off, and put off, and put off. And now we're coming close to the end of this contract with DTE, but they are still, I can just see them, putting it off, putting it off, putting it off, go, oh, guess what, it's April 1st. That's not gonna happen, correct?
That is not going to happen.
Good. The second thing I want to talk about is the tree trimming once again, the palm tree trimming. And I do understand that you guys are doing it a different way, except here's some of the problems that we're having still in our association. The palms are not being trimmed. We have tons of brown palms falling down. We have seed pods that are open that are filled with bees, one right in front of my house. And we asked at least 3 weeks ago, if not longer, to please have it removed. It is still not being removed, it still has not been removed. And we get told over and over again, oh, it's not on the schedule, it's not on the schedule. Oh, the schedule's next month. Well, Jesus, it's 2 years from now, I don't know. What I have seen twice is that Ryan goes out there and trims them, which I think, and many of us think, is ridiculous. That he should be going out there trimming them. First of all, I'm not quite sure he's qualified to do that kind of thing. Also, we do have, and I put it in probably 2 months ago, several of the palm fronds hitting or very close to roofs. I've sent pictures, and now we have roof rats, which has caused, between the association and the 2 people that are affected, over $1,000 in the last 2 weeks, with them having to hire in pest control to get rid of them, and for us to hire somebody to come and fix our vents and around the air conditioner and all that business. And we've been asking for a really long time that be trimmed, to get them away from our roofs, because we were concerned about roof rats, and here we are. And that's it. That was kind of nice, wasn't it?
I'll give you a B. Keith, would you please address Lucy's and respond to her by email and copy the board?
I'll have her come see me afterwards too. I wanna know about the down-to-earth warranty issues too, I know there was some discussion on that. Yeah, we'll get it taken care of. I mean, if there's still misses and things like that, Ryan is an arborist, we do have a pole saw that we're working on to make sure they get some, just trying to add some service there too. So.
But make sure that whatever the result is, that you keep the board informed, and if you send an email to Lucy, copy the board on it, I would appreciate it.
I think that's a great idea, Keith and Jack, because this is a common concern across the community, that things are not being taken care of in the monthly maintenance part.
Frank, you want to talk some more? You're going to talk more than I am, Frank, and that's something. But yes, you can.
I put in for a raise, by the way. Go along with the palm trees, the fawns. why can't the fonts be removed before they open? Because the problem is in my section too, before, in Richmond, they open it, the visa, people are worried about getting stuck. Why are they told we only do it when they open? And then they don't come and do it.
You talking about the seed pod?
Yes, why can't we get the seed pods taken off the trees when they're supposed to do them?
The seed pod is the reproductive portion of the tree, so it's shooting up a seed pod and open so it can pollinate. If you continue to cut those off before they open up, the tree's gonna continue to think it needs to shoot more and more up. So you're gonna have aggressive, more pods open.
All right, then we can't do that, but why can't we get the service done when they open it, make it grow, get somebody in?
Well, again, I mean, if you go back to, a year and a half, 2 years ago before, you only had palm trees trimmed twice a year. So now you've got it more monthly, so to do it on demand is gonna be outside the
I'm only
contract.
trying to help the residents on my.
I mean, we do have it in the landscape contract now, frankly, the trees under 15 are all taken care of by the landscapers.
So I have a few of them opened up right now, and nobody's done anything about it. In my section.
They're having sex.
I'll just fly it up.
It is truly healthy for the trees. Any other comments, questions, concerns?
As I said before, this is a common concern across the community, and we need to address it, and Keith and I have talked about it, and our committee has talked about it, so stay tuned, hopefully, for an uptick shortly. Thank you.
No other questions, concerns, or comments? Then I will entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor? It is 11:16, we are adjourned.